Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wellness Day, a podcast coming to you every Wednesday here from the Jahangir Wellness Center. My name is Kavas Jahangir, and here from the JWC studio today, I've got a very special guest. We're talking about wellness, not at the person level only, but we're talking about it at a society level. Today, I've got Mr. Kurush Irani, who is the head of CSR at Bajaj Finserv. Thank you so much for being here, Kurush. Bajaj is a name that is synonymous with giving and at a society level, as I said. So it's a name that everyone knows. So thank you so much for being here. We're very keen to know what wellness means in terms of not at just a personal level, but at a broader level, which is what I thought that would be good to have you on board today and talking about.
Pleasure to be here, Kavas. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Thank you for having me here. It's interesting you call out the Bajaj group. Coincidentally, this is the 100th year
Oh, really?
of the group, right? And if I draw parallels at wellness is also about having a long, healthy lifespan.
Right.
And if you take that example beyond living beings, I think here is a group amongst a select few who has thrived and grown
Absolutely.
and contributed in so many ways over the 100 years.
Longevity. That's nice to know. But actually, let me take one step back and already correct myself. I said head of CSR, which is a lot of people know that to be corporate social responsibility, and as I said, the Bajaj, Finserv. Everyone knows the name. It's a fantastic name in the city and of course in the nation as well. But it's very easy for people to write checks and pass that off as CSR. But especially with you in charge at Bajaj Finserv for CSR per se, the reason that I wanted to talk to you is because it goes far beyond that for y'all. I really see that as a calling for y'all. So CSC, because it's a lot more than just passing on money and ticking a box on a compliance checklist somewhere.
Right.
Y'all really look at wellness for society as a whole, and I think that's really important for people to know and how y'all do that, and people would love to know how that affects them on a personal level. So I thought that's where you would be the perfect person to talk to. So I'll start by the first question. What does wellness mean to you, and what does wellness mean to you as a group?
For me, wellness has a few different shades, right? So one is I look at it from a physical aspect where you're feeling healthy, you're feeling full of life, you are capable of doing what you're doing, and you're able to extend it for as long as you can.
Right.
There's also a mental aspect to it, that like the physical body, the mind is also in a similar state of being calm, being able to do what is required, enjoying what is required. So a combination of, let's say, healthy mind and a healthy body, and ideally something which is not reactive. So not wellness by treating something, but can it be proactive from a elimination perspective, or
Right.
from
Preventive.
a preventive perspective versus that. So
Yeah.
that's how I would look at it at a personal level.
Right.
I think corporate covers should not be any different, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, finally, what is corporate? It's a
Function of the person
yeah,
or
it's
pejorative of that.
Yeah, you're just putting bunch of people together, and you're putting that in place. So the people definition remains the same, but from a corporate perspective, I do think it's not just the people, but you want the corporate also to do well, because if the corporate does well, that's when you'll be able to take care of your people.
Yeah.
People will grow. So part of the wellness from a corporate perspective, beyond what is logically applicable for the people, it should also be about the corporate sustainability, the ecosystem around which you work.
Right.
How do you contribute to that from a sustainability, from a growth perspective? That's when it makes it a cyclical loop which can keep building up on each other and taking it forward.
Right. We've had an association that's been going on for a long time, which is also one of the reasons that we wanted to talk. And that association is, again, as I said, it comes from a standpoint of calling, not responsibility or even compliance.
Right.
We've been part of a program called Sweetlings for many years now. Can you talk about why that's so important for the Bajaj Group to look at as one of the areas that you all focus on?
I think Sweetlings is a very special program. The name gives a hint,
Yeah.
but just to clarify, it is for juvenile diabetes.
Right.
It is for children with diabetes. I didn't know it till I got into the program, how staggering, one, the numbers are in terms of prevalence, and what sort of impact it has on that child, on that family. Okay? As adults, we typically know if you ever had the misfortune of being hospitalized or having to be treated, one of the big questions you always ask is, are you diabetic?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that has a different bearing in terms of your treatment and so on. Now imagine that for a child who's born with a type 1 diabetes.
And in areas that perhaps are not as privileged as a lot of other people
Exactly,
can
right. So
afford.
this is not driven by economic class. It is prevalent
Yeah.
across the classes. So one, again, awareness is low. Second, it comes on to the same need for insulin. It is about food management. It is about how you manage that flow, but it has cascading impacts, covers on everything. A child who has type 1 diabetes, if not treated well, is not going to be able to go to school.
Yeah.
It's very obvious, right? So it not only does it impact your health, it starts impacting your education. It impacts your education, it's going to impact your future livelihood. So if you see the dots and if you start connecting them, it is not just about the diabetes, it is has a linkage out there. So when I see the Sweetlings program that HCGMR has been running, it is not just about giving insulin shots.
Yeah.
It's a holistic program which is catering to all these elements
Catering to their life effectively.
to the life, right? Getting the health counselors, the dietitians, the nutritionists, making sure education is happening, how are parents being brought in. So I think the program was so strong. We had to
Yeah.
grab it, and I think we've been working for last 8 years on this program. The team who does the work is also fantastic.
Yeah,
There's an amazing team of doctors who lead the program. They are putting the heart and soul in it. So evident.
Right.
And that's how the association has started and has grown to what it is today.
Yeah. And as you said, that's what we want to focus on is wellness. It's all aspects of life, which is really what wellness is. How do you all identify areas that you all want to focus on in the wellness space of, I'm not going to start calling it CSR, I'm going to start calling it CSC because for you all it's a calling. How do you all identify these areas of wellness that you want to focus on and why do you pick those areas?
Sure. So again, if I just give one more context, right? So CSR per se is a unique thing in India. No other country in the world has this mandated by law.
Yeah.
So India is the only country where CSR is mandated by Companies Act by law, which says 2% of your last 3 years profit have to be put back in certain set of defined social activities. This law is about 12 years old, covers. But groups like Bajaj and many more have been involved in philanthropy for decades,
Absolutely.
generations before that. But this just brought a larger gamut of corporates to
Into it,
work in
yeah.
it. And it defined things differently. So it is not donation. It is not charity. It comes with a set of obligations. It comes with a set of processes which makes it stronger. So that's how it is different from typical charity or donation.
Yeah.
Now coming to the question on wellness, all said and done, CSR will always be a very small part of what the overall need of spending is. If I give a context, even at around 35,000 crores of CSR money, it is about 1% of what the government would spend on the social schemes and spaces.
Right.
So it's always going to be a fraction.
Yeah.
So it's very important you decide where you want to focus on, what you want to work on.
Yeah.
So within the wellness space, there are many areas one can work on. We have consciously taken a call to focus on children as a segment, the needy children.
Yeah.
And within that, focus on NCDs, the non-communicable diseases.
Diabetes probably the number one.
Number one, right? We see that as a ticking bomb.
Yeah.
These are not things that are visible, but these are those ticking bombs. These come with high prevalence. This has a risk of mortality and or lifelong association of what happens. So we are focused on a set of NCDs and we try and go deep in those areas in terms of where we find good partners and what we can do with them.
And that's such a long-term vision because you're trying to attack the issue for children who are at very young age. And because of such high prevalence of it, the volume is high. I mean, these are people of our future that we're talking about. So you're all really looking at it at a root cause level, so to speak. So again, it goes back to that 100-year legacy of what you talked about. You're looking at a long runway. So
I think on the root cause, still long way to go, Kavas. I think we still, We're still trying to figure a way around that. One part, which is the easy part, is you help fund the treatment cost. So in the case of, say, diabetes, it is the insulin, as an example. The work, say, we do, a lot of us will be familiar with the term called blue babies, right? So these are babies born with holes in the heart or some deformity, the congenital heart diseases. Again, one of the areas we focus on as an example. Obvious thing was to treat. But increasingly, to the point you made on the root cause, what we figured out is it is not just the treatment, awareness is low. So oftentimes people don't get to know that this is happening. Timely awareness and timely intervention is even lower. So a lot of this is also about how early you catch it and how early you start the journey. And if you look at a program like Sweetlings and what your team does, their focus has not just been about the treatment. It's also been about how do you spread awareness, how do you help identify, how do you start the care at the early. So all the NCDs you'll typically find thematically beyond the cure or the treatment. I don't think there are necessarily cures in all cases. But beyond the treatment, there's an awareness part and then there's a timely intervention part. And we feel that focusing on that is as important as a cure because there is a golden time period. You want to miss that.
Right. And you must be coming across so many programs that y'all are involved in. Just looking back at a macro level, what are the things that come to your mind when you see these programs that you think, oh, you get that moment of frustration, you were like, oh, this could have been so avoided if we just did XYZ and things like that. What are the things that come to your mind when that happens?
So again, I go back to the initial part that can it be preventive? Right? A lot of these, can it be preventive? Can we do something which stops this occurrence in the first place? Now, some of them may not be possible, but in the generic wellness theme, oftentimes it are the small things that you do now which will have an impact to you.
Cascading effect,
10 years down the road, right? So what we are today is possibly the actions we took somewhere in the past.
Right.
And you get mindful of that at some point. The earlier you're mindful of that and you start taking it. You start investing in diagnostics. And now with science advancing, you have enough markers that you can keep checking on and knowing what you do. Now, we are the privileged lot. We have access to it. We have the money to support it. A lot of the people we work with, it's basic existence at place, right? So they may not have access to it or the money to do it. But there again, the awareness, what can we do from a lifestyle perspective? A lot of the work, and again, you see the connections, right? Oftentimes it is linked to early marriage.
Early marriage.
Okay. So if the girl gets married at a young age, has a child at a young age, the child doesn't develop because the mother has not developed. Right? So you see the whole circular loop of that. So oftentimes it is coming down to hence. And why does it happen? Because they're not in education. If they were in education, they would. So a lot of the girls who drop out from education, they drop out for the sake of getting married early. If they continued their education, they would have been more aware. They would have got married at a later age. So you start seeing all these dots, and then you start thinking, how can we start influencing it? Through CSR, you can only do so much, but a lot of the thing is, can we then take some of these thoughts, learnings, research, the government, and can they do things at scale?
So you talked about this cascading effect, whether it's 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. Can you think of any happy examples where you've seen that play out over a period of time from, successful projects that you all have done? And then perhaps next part of that question will be is that where would you like to see something in the next 5 or 10 years?
Yeah. Maybe I'll give 2 examples, right? One we both are biased in, which is Sweetlings, and I'll give one more. So again,
but it's a happy bias.
It's a happy bias, right? And the reason we both are invested is because it is a happy bias. So I think in Sweetlings, it's so awesome when we come for some of the functions and events. We see children who had, and we see their photos when they were really young, when they started their journey. They've been through the project, through that journey. They've done their education. They've gone to college. Now they're working somewhere, or oftentimes they're back with Sweetlings helping in some way or capacity.
The stories are just incredible.
So when Dr. Khadilkar, Dr. Divte talk about those examples, when we meet them and when we see what they're doing, some of them are also in the medical field, helping out, taking on courses, they're doing their PhDs and all. So to see that journey of the child, who in the absence of this, we don't know what may have happened, to see the impact to her, the family, and how they're bringing back is a
Yeah, and I mean, funny that you should talk about this because last week's episode was with one of our Sweetling girls.
Oh, is it?
Who,
Okay.
Who has a very, very, very inspirational journey of where she started.
Right.
And now she's a physiotherapist or looking to study, or she is studying physiotherapy and going to be one at one point. So that journey is what you see firsthand
Yeah.
from where to where their life is. Is exactly what you said. It makes it worthwhile if you're just doing it for even just one person.
Yeah. And here it's not one person. Here we have so many stories,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah.
working with 800 such children on a continuous basis, you have so many stories that you see as part of the Sweetlings project. And
Right.
hopefully with the new project we are all collaborating on together,
Yeah, we're
this
just growing
number
that.
will keep growing up consistently over a period of
And
time.
that compounds, as you said, with people and their families and then their outer families.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing when it works well. But so then coming to the second part of that question is, where would you like to see wellness in where you all are focusing on over the next 5 to 10 years?
I still feel there's a huge opportunity covers on awareness and timely interventions.
Right.
Very recently, we were visiting one of our other partner hospitals where we have a center of excellence on epilepsy.
Lovely. Okay.
And the doctor was telling, and we met this father whose child was
Epileptic.
epileptic, was out there. This family is not from Pune.
Right.
They had come from somewhere in Dehradun. They had been to many centers, and finally they had reached here where they had got the comfort of what they know what's going to happen
Yeah.
next. Because it's a center of excellence, they focus on this. They have the really strong capabilities. Now, even something, I'm not a medical person, but something as critical as epilepsy, it is curable for a large part of the segment. So if you actually break the numbers down, a good chunk is where you need consistent medication.
Right.
But there is a large chunk where through simple surgeries, you can take care of it and it is solved for
Eliminated.
life.
Yeah.
People don't know about that.
Yeah.
Right? And this is one example in epilepsy. I think we see it in all places. Awareness is low.
So just spreading awareness. Yeah.
So I think just the awareness and it's difficult because we're a large country, large population, and at that point where it matters, how do you build that?
Yeah.
Build
And there's
that
also
knowledge?
more and more noise that's
More and more. Cleft and lip palate. We've been doing work on that. Right?
okay.
The deeper you go in the geographies and you see people born with cleft and lip palate.
Yeah.
We've been working on this for many years, but last 3 years we ran a program called Maha Smiles, where we said, can we make Maharashtra cleft free?
Yes.
Can we make Maharashtra cleft free?
Right.
And while we're doing the treatment, we're saying, can we get into the, again, identification, awareness? I think what, again, Sweetlings does uniquely is the research.
Yeah, because that's a good point. It's, as you said, research is a
Because-
big part of it.
Public part. And why? Because a lot of our research is not from India. We piggyback on research which is coming from
Right.
the developed Western countries. Need not always hold good for us.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think-
we're giving
and
it more
that's-
context.
Right? So I think what Sweetling is doing and a lot of other partners, they're doing customic research for the data, for what they're doing out here, which either from a causality perspective, from a cure, from a treatment, may give us or should give us different ways to work through. So I think that's the other piece which is typically overlooked. Some institutions do that,
Yeah.
but I think more and more how research comes in. And now with technology, it should be even more
Yeah,
feasible to amplify some
So
of these things.
that's a very good point. You're from both ends. You're talking about just simple awareness on one end, and then once we have these programs in place and then that you all run and so forth, you have something very tangible at the end of it, which is, as I said, you were just talking about this research that one can apply then at a mass level. So I think
And then how do we drive the government system? Because finally, from an access perspective, from coverage perspective, you need to be able to leverage that infrastructure.
Yeah.
Again, if you take diabetes as an example, the insulin for children is not the same as adults.
yeah,
So in the list of essential drugs, children's insulin doesn't feature.
feature right.
So if you go to any other government dispensaries, you will not be able to get access to it. What role can we play to bring it into the list of essential drugs so that the government institutions start carrying it?
Yeah,
Access gets cheaper. That's the biggest cost component
absolutely.
in that whole journey. So, a lot to be done. Kamal.
Lot to be done.
lot to be done.
Well, Kurush, any last thoughts that you'd like to leave us with?
I think at a personal level, not that I can be a role model or
No, you
or I
absolutely
can,
are, because as I said, what you all do is
but I'm
really,
saying at a personal, I think just invest in your own health.
yeah, absolutely.
If you think of balancing, I think somebody's put it right, that if you have multiple balls you're juggling, glass balls, we oftentimes don't prioritize health. And I think people sometimes attribute it to lack of time.
And
We are
take it
doing,
for granted.
yeah, we are doing disservice to ourselves by doing that. We have to find the time. If we're healthier, everything else is better,
Absolutely.
right? So how do we invest that personally back into ourselves and make sure, besides the eating, etc., you're spending physical activity? And life is getting more and more sedentary for a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
us. So how do you get physically more active and be healthy? Keep getting yourself checked. At a society level, from a corporate level, India is a vast country. The
Yeah.
economic divides are large. A lot of us have access to good treatment, good care. A large part does not have it. Being more aware, helping through that journey,
Yeah.
contributing in ways we can. Does not have to be money. Could be time. Could be skills.
Right, right.
Is one way to take it forward. And finding great institutions who do work and
Such as
figuring
yourselves.
out how we take it forward. And I meant Shandogir and HCJMR as well.
Well, as you said, there's lots to do for everyone. So, but thank you so much, Kurush, for being here. It's been a pleasure talking to you and understanding how you all operate and just doing everything to try and make society a better place. So, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Pleasure is mine. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you.
Thank you all. And before you leave, do not forget to hit the like and subscribe button here at the bottom. And if you have any comments, please do leave that as well. Thank you and see you next week.